Thank you for joining our session. This session is titled Texas Faith and Disability Network Collaborative Initiative. My name is Morgan Foster, and I work for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service as a program manager on a grant project in partnership with the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. This session was co-created with Vanessa Richard of Texas A&M University. I'll quickly go over our agenda today. I'll talk to you guys about the overview of our Central Texas Faith and Disability Network, and we'll talk about how we began last year and the things that we've worked on over the past year and a few of our accomplishments. We'll talk about strategies for a network startup if you're interested in starting a faith and disability network. I'll talk about the tools and strategies you'll need to get that started. Then I'll also talk about strategies to address barriers such as member engagement, attendance upkeep, and innovative options to keep your audience engaged. And then lastly, we'll talk about some action items and next steps. So let's get started. What is the Texas Faith and Disability Network? Well, our origins began back in 2021 after attending the Faith Inclusion Network Conference. And a few of our Texas pioneers and colleagues in the faith and disability world decided that we needed a network here in Texas. So these efforts were led by Bill Gaventa, as well as Dr. Megan Orsag of Texas A&M University. And after we established our statewide group, the Texas Faith and Disability Network, which is composed of self-advocates, family members, caregivers, support persons, and different organizations and agencies across the state with similar interests, Dr. Megan Orsag had a great idea that we needed a Central Texas group that would be housed within our Texas A&M University system. So from there, the Central Texas Faith and Disability Network was born. The current organizations that are heavily involved in a lot of the work that we do include the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, including our Regional Coordinator Initiative, the Texas A&M University Disability Resources Department, Division of Student Affairs, the Texas A&M University Center on Disability and Development, and Texas Workforce Solutions. Vanessa Richards of the Texas A&M Center on Disability and Development has also been extremely instrumental with the formation of the Central Texas Faith and Disability Network. She's been responsible for convening all of our members, establishing agendas, and making sure that we meet monthly and stay engaged. We are also composed of self-advocates, faith community members, parents, caregivers, and support persons, and other organizations and agencies across our Central Texas region. When we first began, we had three main areas of focus. One being awareness, including education. So this was supporting churches with tool development, trainings, presentations, and workshops that really honed in on the area of ministry, faith, and disability. We also focused on creating a sense of belonging and a connection that was beyond inclusion. So we wanted to make sure that we increased the community capacity of our local church members and churches involved. We also wanted to focus on resources and sharing those resources, providing tools that addressed disability concerns within the church and the community. And over the years, we've had a lot of impact. So this has included workshops that were developed, community impact that I'll talk about, member engagement, innovative strategies to keep our members engaged, involvement with the statewide group, the Texas Faith and Disability Network, as well as campus awards. So workshops and community events have been the bread and butter of expanding our network, our Central Texas network system. At the very beginning, we focused a lot on the COVID-19 response And so we held vaccine awareness workshops with local pastors to talk about the importance of COVID-19 prevention and vaccinations. There were also a few vaccine clinics hosted at local churches in partnerships with our local health departments. As we began to get our name out and have member involvement, we also were featured on a local radio show to provide information and solicit more members and more agencies and churches to collaborate with, and faith communities to collaborate with. We also hosted monthly meetings. Monthly meetings are held the second Tuesday of each month for 1 hour. This is for our member-wide group, but then we also meet with our leadership team once a month as well. The last couple of years, we've been able to successfully host a few faith and disability workshops. So our first workshop featured a meet and greet so that we could meet our members who were interested in really cultivating our faith and disability network. So this was a chance for us to really collect information from our potential members, find out what were the needs. We got to hear from different congregants and pastoral leaders and ministers and individuals involved with disability-related organizations. We also heard from self-advocates and parents and caregivers as well. Our second faith and disability workshop, we took those concerns and needs from that first initial meet and greet, and we turned that into an educational workshop that focused on inclusion and accessibility best practices. We took the information that was provided in the meet and greet, and we really took some time to look at those needs and concerns, and we turned that information into our second workshop, which was focused on inclusion and accessibility best practices. What we found was that a lot of the faith communities really needed that education piece when it came to providing inclusive and accessible faith communities in terms of the physical environment, ADA compliancy, and things like that, but then also things that were more inclusive for different disability statuses, such as making sure closed captioning were provided, or sign language interpreters, or making sure that different needs were met for different disability statuses. This also was a brief intro into what does a disability ministry look like and what does it mean to have those within your faith community focus on the needs and interests of those with disabilities. My colleague, Dr. Shelby Vaughn, also created an inclusive checklist for faith communities that went through a lot of best practices and provided a lot of resources as it pertains to this topic area. After that session, our network continued to meet and continued to grow. And as a collective, we decided it'd be great to hear from self-advocates about what to come next, what were the main needs and concerning issues. And so our third workshop featured a panel of self-advocates from different faith communities. We made sure that we had self-advocates of different faith community backgrounds and different religious practices. This panel was really special. We were able to hear about the needs and concerns of feeling this sense of belonging, as it is beyond just inclusion and accessibility, and as it is beyond just providing a physical space or a separate ministry. What did it mean to have a faith community that was fully inclusive and fully provided elements that allowed self-advocates to feel included? And so a lot of the panelists were able to talk about their experiences with being involved with faith communities, as well as taking on faith community leadership roles. Since then, we have continued to develop more educational workshops, including one featured this year that talked a bit more about what it looks like to start a disability ministry. A few things that have really worked well in our favor for the workshops were our innovative strategy approach to make sure that we were engaging our members. And so we held events in person and online through a model called HighFlex model, which I will talk about shortly. We also provided food as an incentive for those who were able to come in person. We also implemented flip charts to be able to collect notes and information from our attendees at multiple workshops, and this allowed for our attendees to remain engaged throughout the entire session time. And a lot of these innovative strategies led to more participants and even doubling attendance numbers from when we first began implementing workshops until present day. So what is the HyFlex model? Through the HyFlex model, we were able to provide a live workshop in person and online at the same time. We had moderators and facilitators who were present in person, as well as moderators and facilitators who were present in our online environment as well. One tool that really helped to make this successful was utilizing a meeting owl device. This really cool device is able to pick up on the sound and audio of whoever is speaking in a room in a certain circumference of distance. And so that made it to where those who were online felt pretty included and part of the meeting that was taking place in person, because you were able to actually see the speaker at the time while they were talking. The images on the screen right now display what it's like for having a presenter present in person while also being able to pick up the attendees. We were also able to share on the screen PowerPoint information while showing an in-person speaker. And then we also were able to have a speaker online, and we were able to show the speaker as well as the presentation, as well as the attendees in person. And so this allowed a very inclusive environment for our online virtual attendees, as well as our in-person attendees. And everyone was able to connect and talk via chat or out loud if they were in person, or they were able to come off of their mic if they were online. So throughout our time, we've had to overcome plenty of barriers, one being member engagement. It's pretty difficult to, one, start a network, but to keep a network engaged over time. And so we lacked a lot of sustainable member engagement for increased capacity building. But one way we were able to address our issue of sustainable member engagement was through assigning roles and tasks. So every meeting that we would have each month, we would assign roles and tasks as we got ready for our next workshop, or as we brainstormed, or as we tried to figure out how to help with recruitment and retention. Each person had a specific role within our network. And so that really helped with making sure that members stayed engaged from month to month, because they knew they had an assigned task to complete before we met again. Another issue that we were able to address over time was workshop attendance. In the beginning, we had a lot of issues with low registration numbers, technology barriers. There was an issue of transportation and even scheduling. So over time, we've introduced different innovative strategies that led to doubling our attendance records. So for example, us being able to provide the HyFlex model led to more attendees being able to either come in person or engage with us online as they were in different places and unable to attend in person. We also most recently just switched to providing education virtually, and this allows us to completely address the barriers of transportation and scheduling, timing, to be able to allow attendees to just join us online and still be able to receive those materials and education through the virtual environment. So action items. How can you do exactly what we did and start your own Faith and Disability Network? Well, step one, you'll want to establish a group with common interests. Find those who are like-minded, and whether those are members in different faith communities of different religious backgrounds, involved with agencies and organizations, self-advocates, parents, caregivers, siblings, find those who have common interests in the world of faith and disability and have common issues and needs that they would like to address. Convene that group, step two, and set up times to meet either monthly or bi-monthly to establish some purpose and goals for your network, whether that's simply resource sharing, whether that is education sharing, trainings, or just time to network and actually collaborate and connect with different people in your community. Find a way to convene. That could be in person, that could be in line, but just online, or just that could be in person or that could be online, but just find time to convene and meet. Step 3, once you establish your network's goals and missions, and we actually wrote down our network's purpose and mission for our group. After that, you want to be able to have some type of community impact, whether that be hosting events for the community based on the needs of the community, or another method of being able to connect with your community. So outside of your network, how are you able to share that information to the masses? That is step 3. Step 4 is recruitment and retention. You want your network to continue to grow and to be engaged and to stay together. So you have to find the best practices and strategies to make sure you're constantly engaged in recruitment and finding more individuals with common interests who are actively involved in their communities or actively involved in their faith communities. And then find some strategies to be able to retain your recruitment efforts. Get creative. Figure out if online environments are the best way to keep your network engaged, or is it in-person environments are the best way to keep your network engaged? Figure out those methods and apply those. In step 5, evaluate for best practices and room for improvement. Constantly evaluate as the network builds. Even if it's just recruiting those initial members, constantly evaluate and find out how can we do a better job. So I also think that step 2, 3, 4, and 5 are constantly evolving. You're constantly going through those steps because you constantly are trying to evaluate how to improve. You're constantly meeting and convening. You're constantly trying to find out ways to connect with your community. And then you're constantly working on recruitment and retention. And if you want more information about how you can start your Faith and Disability Network or how to reach us, you can utilize our faith inclusion checklist, which was included as a handout for this presentation. You can visit us at texasfaithanddisabilitynetwork.org or txfdn.org. You can also contact us. My email is morgan.bradley@ag.tamu.edu. Thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation. We look forward to connecting with you and hearing about how you got started with your own Faith and Disability Network where you are. Take care and have a blessed one.